That's the thing I don't like about this rule. I think it caught a lot of people off guard. I love the intent, and I love the fact that, it's going to attract people from, other forms of racing. But I don't like the fact that it left out our own.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. California's Kevin Harvick does it. Straight making right there. You're the man.
Welcome to Kevin Harvick's Happy Hour, presented by Echo Park Automotive and NASCAR on Fox. And we got a sponsor.
We do. How exciting.
Yeah.
Year 2. How about that?
I love it.
We must have done
She's
something
Caitlin
right.
Vinci.
Yeah.
We don't know who this guy is. He's been gone so much that
He's a world traveler.
That's a world traveler here, Mamba Smith. But it does feel good to be back in the
Year
studio.
2.
Everything's kind of the same, other than our
Lovely sponsor.
our lovely sponsor. Yeah.
Very exciting.
We're excited to have the folks from Echo Park Automotive on board, and
Big.
here we go again.
Here we go again, guys. Closers are in for another season. We're so excited. We have plenty to talk about on this show because a lot happened since the last time we filmed a happy hour. Many happenings in the sport, of course. So we'll break down a lot of those. We encourage the closers to keep subscribing on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave some 5 stars and some reviews as well. So there you have it.
Yeah,
guys.
and of course, Mamba's social sips, your favorite part.
That's right. Oh,
that's
shoot. I
coming
left
back.
that out. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
no, it's
course
okay,
that's
it's okay.
coming back. And
Yeah.
we have like a little addition to that you'll be sharing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
exciting.
We want to get you guys more involved
yeah.
with the show. So got something coming up.
I was a little bit worried when we started right there. I didn't know if she had told you about the extra addition of things that were happening before the show. I thought you might stumble a little bit there. It might still be in beach brain.
Because he missed the meeting?
Man.
Yeah.
I'm warmed up. I've been ready. I've been looking
Our guy here, we had our first meeting of the year, and our guy
45
decides
minutes
that
late.
he's going to show up 45 minutes late.
It's good. It's good stuff. We appreciate that.
In my defense.
Dedication.
In my defense.
So you're going to defend yourself.
well,
Go
who
ahead.
else is
Here
going
we
on
go.
the show? No one
Exactly.
else. Yeah. So in
Yeah.
my defense, I was really nervous I was going to miss it. And I thought our time zone changed.
Oh.
And it didn't in San Juan. Or it did. I don't know. I was backwards. I messed it up.
You were hungover.
He was
No, I just got there.
calling a spade a
Oh,
spade.
you just got
I
there.
had just got there.
Oh.
Yeah,
It's,
San Juan.
you still had your sea legs on.
Yeah, no,
Sea
no,
legs.
I just got off the flight, but yeah.
That's
Well,
fair.
you hadn't even got to the sea leg.
No, I haven't even got to the sea like part yet. But it was great.
Well, it looked fun.
It did look fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, we had
So
8
you're-
stops in the Caribbean.
Hey, we got
Off-season
everything
thing?
else under control. You're
Yeah,
good.
no, I know
Yeah.
you guys
Focus in.
I'm locked in on doing whatever you guys tell me to do.
Cool. I'm going to hold you to that then. How was your off season, Kevin? What'd you do?
Well, I worked. I've figured out that retired race car driver life is work,
Is it?
and it's fun. I like to work. I enjoy working. I enjoy the things that I get to do. I love the fact that we're starting year 2, and now I'm settled into what I'm supposed to be doing, not worried about what it might be, where I'm supposed to go, when I'm going to be in the booth, what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about racing.
That's right.
Yeah,
you
it's
are.
pretty simple. My job's not that hard because I've done this my whole life. Things change a little bit, but the story tells itself. So hopefully we can follow along and tell a good story.
Caitlin, what have you been doing?
I really didn't do anything. This is quite simple.
Oh, okay.
I just hung out with my kids.
Yeah.
Pretty much what I did.
That's
I
what
didn't go
happens when you
anywhere.
have kids. You get
When you get
consumed
older.
by your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I first time I didn't go on a trip really or do anything. Just kind of hung out.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah, okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You know?
Your social life, I live vicariously through his, as
Yeah.
I know you do as well.
Yeah, well, so, someone was like, "Oh, you're going on vacation? Must be nice." I'm like, "Listen, man, I have no
Listen,
kids
man.
and no wife. You chose that.
You definitely,
You chose
That's
that.
fair.
you definitely would have never made it as a top NASCAR driver
Why?
because your vacation time is messed up.
Wait, where would you rank Tim Richmond?
Well, look, you have to know that when you go and you're in NASCAR driver, that you have to go from January until the beginning of the season, you have to work.
January until the beginning of the season.
The 1st of January to the beginning of the season.
yeah.
That's when the driver works.
Yeah, but I'm not the driver. You're
Yeah,
the
but
driver.
you're media.
Yeah,
You're
but
media.
I'm your
We're
media.
gonna have to go in December.
Yeah. Well, we need to adjust the schedule.
He's going on another vacation, by the way.
Jeez.
He
Are
leaves
you
Monday.
kidding me?
Right?
You're going on another vacation?
I mean,
That's why we got Bobby
yeah, I
P
mean,
on the
yeah,
show.
I mean, I gotta pop over to Mexico real quick, make sure that they're ready for us, in the middle of the year to be over there.
Well, the good news
see.
is when we put Bob in that chair, it's going to get smarter.
I was like, here it comes.
Yep.
Here it comes. You're right. It is going to get smarter,
Yeah.
but it won't get better looking. So,
Oh.
debatable.
no, it's not.
Okay.
Well, I mentioned my kids. How's Keelan? I know
He's doing
he's
good.
had a lot of announcements
He
lately.
did, yeah. We decided that we're just going to send him off into Never Never Land and have him race the car next year, and that's just kind of how we've done that with
How you
Keelan
roll?
through
Yeah.
the years, and when you feel like he's ready to tackle something else, and let him go through the beginning phases of the suffering of getting your tail kicked, and that's part of the learning process, right? To be able to go out there and learn something new. So he's primarily going to race the late model stock and the pro late model this year, and we're going to get to race against each other a few times. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about where we're going to start that as we get into this show a little bit down the road here.
Yes.
It's going to be a few times. So that I have a feeling that'll get competitive. There's already a lot of shit talking going on in the house.
Is there?
Oh yeah.
He's hard, like to
He's
you.
cocky.
No, he's
Is
like,
he?
no, he's like that.
Oh yeah.
That's
no, he's
funny.
like that, and
He
he
is
knows
cocky.
because he's good. So and he knows that he's good, and that and now Dad's got to.
I've had to explain to him, Keelan, this is not a go-kart. This is not a legend car. If you wreck my ass in this car, it's expensive,
Yeah, it's
and I'm
different.
paying for it. So you better make
price,
sure
yeah.
that if you wreck me, it better be for something really,
Really good.
and not
That
for
is
fifth place
funny.
or something middle of the road.
Right.
Oh, I gotta give
Okay.
I gotta give Piper a little shout out. So the bracelet that she made me last year, that I always wear, was
Yep.
getting loose. And then when I was in the islands, they remade it. They
Tied it?
tied it for
Oh, you got a
me.
new
So-
string.
Yeah, I
That's
got new
nice.
strings, so
New
now it's locked in for the new year. Piper.
Oh,
There you
good.
go.
New string.
Yeah,
That's
Like
good.
it.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
glad
here
to
for
hear that it's secure,
it's secure.
over there.
We're locked in.
Excellent. Speaking of not secure, let's talk about some of these interesting storylines. Kevin, I want to start with teams win the preliminary injunction in the lawsuit against NASCAR. And in the name of expedience and convenience, NASCAR agreed to allow the 2311 charter acquisition from SHR proceed pending the appeal, which that appeal we know now is going to be heard in May.
Yeah.
So what do you make of all of this, the things that have transpired with this lawsuit?
Well, when I first started watching the whole thing take place, I'm like, man, NASCAR is kicking butt. This is not going to be very good for the teams. And then the judge switched,
Yep.
and all of the sudden, everything swung, towards the teams and front row and 2311 and their side of the lawsuit. So I'm happy that the charters and the sale for SHR went through. I'm happy that they're able to get the charters theoretically in the right teams and get them situated to be able to start the season. It would have been so confusing to start the season with those cars without charters, and then they would probably have one car with charters if they got the SHR thing to it would have been just a mess. I still, I don't like that we're talking about a lawsuit, but we have to cover the news and it's part of the sport. I think as you look at it from a team standpoint, I think now it's just there, and it's part of what's happening with the preseason and the season. I don't think it's going to be over with anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're talking May, for the next piece of it. But I think the drivers and the teams should be somewhat used to it now. So it'll be interesting to see how it progresses from here. But I'm glad we don't have to start the year with a bunch of
Question
well,
marks.
this guy's in, this guy's not. Well, his teammate's in. So it could have been just a confusing mess.
Yeah, that's not how you want to start out, right?
No.
We got
No.
Daytona 500, we got the Clash. We want to talk about race cars and going fast and having fun. I do think that, as we get into the year, as Kevin pointed out, I think the guys know what's going on. Every once in a while, there'll be a question. The media is going to ask these guys questions when pieces come out.
That's the problem.
That'll be annoying.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think everyone's like, yeah, we're here to go racing. The conversation that's being had about the lawsuit is up here with the
Right.
execs and people at NASCAR and everybody like that. So I think the competitive side of it is going to take over pretty quickly here, and we're just going to move
But you
on.
can't hide from it.
No, you can't hide
It's
from it. It's right
still
there.
there, right? Like you want to have these great interactions with Michael and the things that he does, and you know that the press is they're gonna push, and if he's in something and they have an opportunity, they're gonna ask, and that just makes him guarded, I would assume, and I hope that. Well, I mean, there's just no way to hide from it.
Yeah.
I mean, the drivers can't hide from it, and they're just going to be annoyed by that question that gets asked, and it has to be asked.
I'm interested to see how because Denny's obviously been the most vocal and the leader of the situation. So I'm interested to see how he handles it at the beginning of the year and throughout the year. Because every time he says something, that's when a lot of the questions start coming up to everybody else. Because they're like, oh, well, Denny said this. So
Right.
what do you feel about this? So I'm interested to see how that works for him.
Yeah, and I think for Denny personally, and this is going to screw her all up.
Oh, dear.
With the flow of the show.
No, ready?
Yeah, let's do
Love
it.
this for me.
You know, I think for Denny now it becomes, you know, much more difficult to handle, in my opinion, because of the fact that he has a new crew chief on the Cup side. And, you know, I think when you have to, from my standpoint, with the things that I dealt with, when you have a new crew chief, it requires more effort from the driver side of things to get that relationship started. Now, I know his crew chief has been in the building for a long time, and they've obviously crossed paths and things like that, but I don't get the feeling that this obviously wasn't Denny's choice. And so he is going to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And I think internally there's also that chip on you know, some people's shoulders internally at Joe Gibbs Racing to make sure that they prove it right. I think but that effort that it takes from Denny in the beginning of the year to get that going is going to be interesting, because that was one of the things with Rodney that I loved the most, was the fact that I knew I would show up at the simulator on this day. I knew I would do this. And when there was a problem, he would call me and we would talk through it, and it would take, you know, 2 minutes. And now you got to start that. I feel like that's the relationship he had with Gabehart, with Chris Gabehart, his old crew chief. And now you got to start that process all over again. And to have that convenience is going to be tough with all the things he's trying to balance.
So Kevin, of course, referencing the fact that Joe Gibbs Racing announced in the offseason, Chris Gabehart, his former crew chief who had 22 wins with him, will now be assuming the competition director role at JGR. Chris Gale, as Kevin referenced, no stranger, of course, to JGR, Toyota, their whole program, will now be his new crew chief. So we're going to break down some of the driver-crew chief pairings, but since we're already on this one, your thoughts, too, of just, it seemed Denny was very taken by surprise with this decision that was made.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty open about how he
did not know.
Like it, didn't know about it, which is a very interesting.
The whole thing is.
Can you imagine, like, you're a quarterback and then you just find out that your head coach is like just leaving and had no idea. Like, it's a very interesting thing. Yeah. But for the company, I think it's going to be great, because Gabehart is one of the best crew chiefs and best minds in the garage. So I think for the total of the company, it'll rise everybody up. But for the 11, it might be specifically a little bit of a change, because now, you know, his new crew chief, Chris, needs to figure out how to deal with Denny and how to prod him in the right way to get the best out of him. And Denny's going to push back a little bit, because you got to find that relationship.
Yeah, and but look, Denny's a pro.
Yeah,
right. He's experienced. He's been through this before. I think that, you know, that sudden change, you know, I don't know. It was messy when the playoffs started last year. You had the lawsuit happen. The lawsuit's continuing to happen. You had the engine. You had all these things happen. Ran in the back at Atlanta, and you know, I don't know that was necessarily you know, a great choice instead of just going for it. So, you know, I think there were a number of things that seemed to transpire that just led to, hey,
everything.
There had to be something internal that was going on as well at JGR for there'd be a position open for Chris Gabehart to go in there and you know, take a new role and move a new crew chief into the 11, move a new crew chief into the 54. You know, you got a new driver in the 19. So, I mean, there's a lot of change at Joe Gibbs Racing. They won a lot of races in the first half of the year. They didn't win a race in the second half of the year. So, you know, I think it's very interesting to see how this dynamic will go, especially on the 11, because of the fact I think if it doesn't start well, it's gonna be a rocky ride.
So big leadership changing, obviously, there at Joe Gibbs Racing. It'll be interesting to see Gabehart in that new role. As you mentioned, I'm sure he'll be very impactful, though, for the team overall. Yeah. So we also mentioned 2311 Racing. They're expanding to 3 teams. Riley Herbst joining the group there at 2311. What do you make of that move?
Well, I think bringing Riley into 2311 is obviously the next step in his career, and he'll be one of the Rookie of the Year contenders with SVG. Quite the difference in you know, background, everything. But it'll be intriguing to watch that Rookie of the Year battle as they go through. I think when you look at what it takes to get used to the Cup Series in general, and let alone the Cup Series car, this Gen 7 car, it's different, right? Like it's going to be a steep learning curve for for Riley to get used to the car and the way that everything works. I think he's got a lot of experience around him. I think having Denny Hamlin and having Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, those guys have all been in the Cup Series for a while. They've driven this car every year that it's been on the racetrack, and to have that experience is great for Riley. And I think adding that third car to that team is the next step for their progression to grow the organization. So it'll be interesting to see that progression. I think he's got 175 starts or so.
You're right.
in the Busch Series or the Xfinity Series. So he started to win races, and it was time to move on. It's just like we talked with Keelan earlier, right? When you get to that point and there's another step, at some point you just have to jump in and hope it works out for you and start learning. Yeah. And I think that he's going to start learning, and it will change the dynamic of the flow of that team.
Right.
Bubba's got a new crew chief, and they got the lawsuit, and they got everything going on. So they got a lot of things changing over there that have changed over there as well at 2311.
Riley Herbst, a 3-time winner in the Xfinity Series, but I feel like he's really going to fit in well with that whole brand. Just like his persona, who he is, it seems like it will be a good fit with him in 2311.
I think one of the best things for Riley is he's going to be able to show his personality more and who he is. There's a lot of people don't know who Riley is, and Riley's like a really nice kid. He's a fun guy to have around.
Great family.
They have a great family all together, and he's going to be good. He's going to be a good spot. I mean, he's made a few Cup starts, not a ton, obviously, but where he has made his starts, he's done well. He's done everything he was supposed to do in his starts. So I think it'll be a good challenge for him, and we'll see where it kind of shakes out halfway through the year.
So one of the other announcements that took place is with NASCAR centering their marketing around drivers for the 2025 season. So this is an incentive program that will be paying the drivers anywhere from tens of thousands up to $1 million for their efforts to promote the sport each season. This is very interesting. We were kind of talking about it before the show began. What do you make of this change within the sport and how the drivers will now be kind of promoting it?
Well, the drivers need to be in front of the fans more, right?
Okay.
I think the one thing that we all talk about as this program was being put together over the last couple of years is how do we build the drivers' brands? How do we make them rock stars? Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing we got to do is figure out how to get them in front of the people that they need to be in front of to make them rock stars. Because what's happened in our sport is, since 2009, really, the financial crisis and everything that we went through, the way that businesses do business is different. It used to be when I started, you showed up and we'd have each sponsor would, have some sort of media gimmick that they would do in New York City or Texas or wherever it was. And they promoted you by bringing people to hospitality. They would have thousands of people at some of the sponsors at hospitality, or hundreds. And then you'd have suites, and they'd have commercials, and they'd have all these things. So the sponsors really promoted the sport as I was coming through the sport to be able to grow it and make you have a brand. Because you were exposed to so many things in different news outlets and media outlets across the country. So, I think what this driver incentive program does is it allows the drivers to get creative with their own brand. And nobody likes you more than you, right?
I would hope not.
Yeah. Nobody cares about you more than you. And, I think as some of these guys have gone through the years, their brand's just not as recognizable as it needs to be. And we got to grow their brands. And I think the incentive program is really meant to grow the sport and to be able to let these drivers grow their brands and get creative with social media and all the different things that goes along. PGA has a very similar system that they use from a PR standpoint. So it's not outside the box of what other sports are doing. Some other sports are doing, and I think when you look at the number that is attached to this particular program, it's peanuts compared to the TV deal and the teams and the tracks and NASCAR and what they're getting. So nobody's there to see the team owner drive their car or walk around their car. They're there to see the drivers drive the cars. Right. It's a driver-driven sport, and the drivers deserve what they're getting. And I hope that this program works out and the guys that are driving the cars go out and try to earn their keep to win the program, because they can win hundreds of thousands and maybe millions of dollars to be the guy that promotes the sport the best and themselves.
It's an interesting incentive. And I do find it a little frustrating that it feels like some of our drivers don't actually put the effort into some of these things. I'm hoping this will change that.
I mean, I think that's what we're
I'm not trying to be hateful,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's pretty obvious.
I think that's the whole goal, is to get guys to put themselves out there more and to build their brand.
Dangle that carrot in front of them
a little bit of carrot, because
Everybody likes money.
fellas, yeah, here's the thing.
Who doesn't like money? Yeah.
This is what's going to happen is you're going to go out and you're going to start promoting your brand and you and yourself, and you're going to, hockey games, basketball games, different concerts, coming out on stage with guys, doing all that. As you're doing that, other brands are going to see that, and they're going to want to be a part of what you're doing. So you're going to make money on this incentive program, but you're also going to make money outside of it. That's the goal. No one wants this. This isn't here to take away from anybody. It's just here to promote everybody. And I like that there's kind of like a seeding to it. That's where the money is. So a little bit of competitiveness. And so someone that may be not performing as well on track has an opportunity to still find some bonus money.
Yeah, and I think that, as you look at the drivers' brands, like, we need them to be bigger stars. And I think a lot of the drivers get frustrated with the fact that they go to some of these appearances and don't feel like they're getting the exposure that they should for the work that they're putting in and the time that they're putting in. So now it gives them a little bit of leeway, to create some stuff and put the time into going somewhere, doing something that they either enjoy, they feel is impactful. Anytime you can do an appearance and go places and do things, whether it's a PR event, race, or whatever it is, if you're enjoying it, it comes across a lot better. And it's just like, I used to, tell the people at Nascar and internally on our teams, there's two different people. There's myself away from the racetrack, and there's myself in competition mode. You won't like the competition mode guy. He's not near as personable as the guy is that is away from the racetrack. So those interactions away from the racetrack are much more intimate, much happier than you're going to find at the racetrack for a lot of the guys that are competitive. Yep. And I think that even if you're not competitive, you're still thinking about what's going on. I'm not thinking about what I should say to you next. I'm thinking about how I'm going to, go out and do the best that I can in this race today. So you're balancing those thoughts in your head to be able to have this interaction with somebody, and you can still make it good at the racetrack, but very seldom is it going to be as good as it's going to be outside of that competitive environment. Yep.
I feel like you always did a great job in your career of putting effort and time into these things, the appearances and all that stuff. I know it's work, obviously, but you seem to genuinely not mind doing it. You work with a lot of young drivers now. Have you kind of tried to coach them on the importance of doing some of these things?
Well, there's more to it than just what it says in your contract. There's this. If you can connect the dots and build a network of people and maintain those relationships and go to dinner and shake a hand and go places that you're not supposed to go, and just by doing normal things and having a good time with the people that are supporting you, it's not hard, but it does take time. And it's been so easy over the years that we've progressed through to be able to just say, I'm not going to do that. And nobody says anything. Right? There's no consequence to it.
Right.
So now the consequence is, well, I made X amount of money. Well, you put this much time in compared to this guy, and he got this much exposure compared to you. So now you look lazy. So the lazy guys are going to stick out pretty good.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
I think all the guys are competitive, and having this little bit of leeway to be creative is something I think that the drivers should feel like they have more control of the exposure and where they're at to get it.
Yeah, I hope what this also creates is some more of those old NASCAR commercials and content that we used to see back in the earlier 2000s with, like, you'd see drivers all over the place in different brands. I think that was really fun. And I think that's good because now you look at Instagram and every time one of those old videos come up, everyone's like loving it. So I hope that we see some more of that because people are now engaging.
Hope's a bad strategy.
Okay, I want it to. Make it happen. What do you want?
Hope is a terrible strategy.
I have faith that it's good. What do you want me to say?
Listen, the world is different. The world is different today in the way that we promote and the things that we do. Those old videos are great and the old races are great, but it's just not the same.
No, but we just need people out. Like, I want to see them.
No, I get it. We need. I get that you need to see people out, but hoping that we go back to this is not going to happen. We need our guys out and about, doing things that are in in line with today's platforms and things that are effective, right? Like we're definitely not going back in time.
No, but we need to see them
replicate some of the things.
Yeah,
that they
like just
do.
like in content. Like they're not in any content.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like they're not in Ford commercials like they should be.
Yeah,
they're not in.
So we need interaction with the guys that are, in places that they normally aren't.
Wouldn't be,
and outside of the racetrack and being normal humans, but also at big events, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like we need somebody
at the Super Bowl.
At the Super Bowl. Pretty easy.
At the Super Bowl.
That's right.
Yeah. Up with LeBron James and whatnot.
It'll be interesting to see what this new incentive does and where we might see drivers appearing throughout the course of the season. So we referenced some of the crew chief changes already with Denny Hamlin. There are quite a few that have taken place. I want to stay in the Joe Gibbs Racing family while we're there. Tyler Allen named crew chief for Ty Gibbs, and he, of course, is very familiar with the organization, was with the 20 Xfinity Series team, 8 of the team's 9 wins he was a part of as the crew chief. So race engineer for Adam Stevens, obviously very qualified for this job. But I imagine as a crew chief, working for Ty Gibbs, the grandson, that's a tall task, I mean, that's no joke, the pressure that can come with that particular role.
Well, I think the pressure on all these teams is different.
Right.
Inside of the organization. And, I think when you really step back and analyze it, like even look at the 2311 piece, they have that alliance with 2311. So now there's an extra car over there. There's an extra engine over there. There's more resources over there.
People, maybe.
You've got a new crew chief on the 54 who is the owner's grandson. You've got a crew chief on the 11. You've got a new driver in the 19. So I think that there's a lot of nuances that we don't really know what is going to happen and how it's all going to work and who it's going to work for and not work for. But really where we're going to see all this take effect is about week 10. I feel like always in a new situation, you can get it through the first 6 weeks until you start having problems and you have to start diagnosing what's going on where. And I think that's really we're going to see who has made improvements on what they're doing. So, we put a lot of talk into Ty Gibbs last year. He didn't win. I think in order for his to work, he's got to win. I know that seems like a lot of pressure with a new crew chief, but
it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, at some point you got to get into victory lane and just get the monkey off of your back. I think Chase Briscoe's in that same boat. I'm a James Small fan because of the fact that he's just like, he's got that fire. And I think he's been held back a little bit by the enthusiasm and things that Martin had towards the work that it takes to go into this particular car is different than what it took in the old car. And I think that, I think Chase Briscoe's in a position where he needs to go out and like a ball of fire and make something happen from the driver's standpoint. So, Denny, we've already kind of covered that one, but internally, I think they've made their organization stronger. But now you're going to have to make it function at the racetrack with the driver and the crew chief. And 8-10 weeks into the season is really when you're going to see that take effect. But I believe they all have a lot of pressure on them. The expectation is to win at Gibbs. And in order to do that, they're going to have to do it quick. And none of them did it in the second half of the year. So now you've got all these changes, but you will have a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of time, effort, because nobody there wants it to fail. So they could come out on fire.
It's going to be a lot, I think, for them. They got to come out strong.
Building year.
Yeah, it's a building year. The honeymoon phase of the newness is going to wear off pretty quickly because you can't let it, we're going to get better and ease into it. No. We have some goals.
They're going to be very motivated.
Go time.
Every person in a new position is going to be very 100%. Motivated.
Yep, that team will be the most interesting probably to watch as the season progresses. You referenced Martin Truex. I just want to take a moment to say we're thinking about him after the loss of his father, Martin Sr. So one of the other crew chief pairings I found most interesting, I would say, is with Brad Keselowski. Yeah. Because Matt McCall obviously was with him for a number of years. Now Jeremy Bullins has been named the new crew chief for him. He obviously has been in the Cup Series a long time, worked with Wood Brothers, Ryan Blaney, Brad, Austin Cindric, Harrison Burton. So what do you think of the Bullins-Keselowski pairing?
Yeah, I think Brad obviously has a pretty good pulse on his organization and the things that are happening internally. And I think that we've seen the power of Brad Keselowski and the things that he can do with your race team just by his knowledge of what's going on with the car, how it's driving, the people and the places, and the improvements that they've made at RFK throughout the years. But I think it's, it finally got to a point, all right, we've got to win more consistently. And how do we do that? The expectation isn't to win one race a year with Brad. Mm-hmm. The expectation is to race for a championship. And obviously he felt like they weren't at that point. I think that when you look at Jeremy and the things that he and Brad have, experienced together, Brad obviously felt like it was time for a change and felt like, sometimes those relationships are with each other is more important than, having the smartest guy.
Yeah.
And I look at this as I'm not saying that Jeremy's not a smart guy. He's a super smart guy. He was my engineer on the 29 car way back when on the Goodwrench car with Gil Martin. So Jeremy's a super, super smart guy, but the relationship is, that's the key to the whole puzzle. And, I think then you build the team around that. So Jeremy's got experience. Brad and Jeremy obviously agree on what they're doing and they got to win more.
Yeah.
In the end, the expectation is for, like I said, for him to race for a championship.
Well, because it's not super surprising because you were seeing Chris Buescher winning multiple races and Brad wasn't.
Yeah.
So this probably is the move they felt was necessary at this point.
And for Jeremy, right, he's been kind of bounced around within Team Penske a little bit over the last. He's won with all the drivers that he got bounced around to. So that gives you a lot of confidence that he can create a culture with a team very quickly that is a winning type of culture. But so for him, I look at him like, well, he probably was ready for a change. Like maybe something a little bit more veteran, right? He's been with a lot of the young guys that are trying to make their way up. And now he gets to get back with Brad, someone who he knows exactly how he thinks, how he likes his car, how he wants to drive, and all those things. So to Kevin's point, like that relationship, crew chief to driver, if you're really good pairing, sometimes that fixes a lot of the other things that couldn't be fixed just because maybe someone is a little bit more technical or whatever in different areas.
Yeah, and a lot of times, this stuff works out, but sometimes it doesn't. Like we changed the crew chief from 1 year at the 29 car. We went from Gil Martin to Shane Wilson, and we knew within like 6 weeks that wasn't going to be an improvement. I actually switched it back. So you never know how these things are. You have to be willing to make a change, and you're always looking for the personnel shift to be able to prod that enthusiasm in a direction that makes the team better. We got to Daytona one year with Hornaday's crew chief on the truck series, and I stood up on the trailer listening to him conduct practice and watched the race, and went back Monday morning and said, "You're down the road." Monday after Daytona. To me, there's a lot of times that you can tell pretty quickly whether this is going to work or not, and it's not just Jeremy and Brad, but also with these other guys. And you can, once we get through the honeymoon phase of 2 or 3 weeks, you can start listening to the radio and start to tell if it's going to work or not, right? Like, you're going to be able to tell, like, let's just use the 54 car for instance. If Ty is frustrated on the radio and all of a sudden he goes from honeymoon phase to, calling them out, like in the situation that he has been in, it's going to be a rough ride. So it can go either way with all of these situations.
The industry joke is it's kind of like a marriage, this driver crew chief pairing. So did you know right away with Rodney? You're like, oh yeah, we're not divorcing.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times it depends on the organization and the effort, and it also depends on. But I could feel right away the personal relationship that Rodney and I had was different than what I had before, but. I think a lot of that comes, we were similar in age. We both had kids. Yeah. We both had the same background growing up. And so it's different clicks for different people, right? Like, I don't know what makes Brad tick. I don't know what makes Jeremy tick. I don't know what makes Ty Gibbs tick. You got to learn how all these people tick. And the oddest pair that we ever had was Ron Hornaday and Rick Wren. I'm like, oh my God, how in the world are these two? I told Rick Corelli, who was the general manager, I'm like, there is no freaking way that this will ever work. He's like, you got to trust me. We just got to see what happens. And those two went to win championships and races. And so you never know. And a lot of people didn't think Rodney and I would work because he was so mild mannered. Yeah. And I was so high strung, but you found that middle road of hey, he's doing a great job, I'm doing a great job. Whatever that balance is, in order to That's his lane. This is your lane.
Yeah.
And finding that balance is good, but you don't have a lot of time and there's nowhere to hide.
Nowhere to hide. That's right.
No, not here. Everything happens really fast.
Really fast.
Whoever is going to have the most buy-in from their driver first is going to have the most success the quickest.
Yeah. And
that's really what
you look back and Kyle Busch is a great example when he went to RCR. They had just that bang up start to his first 6 months that were at RCR.
Yep.
Hadn't really had that dominance since that particular time at RCR. Now they've had some phases and they've been in position to win some races, but that's a great example of the honeymoon phase and the success that you can have while everybody's ultra focused. But who are going to be those pairings that are ultra focused for more than 2 or 3 weeks
for the long term?
Yeah,
so to be ultra focused for 38 weeks, that's a hard. That's what makes. That's well,
you got to be able to get. You got to be able to get through the hard times.
Yeah.
Right. Like you got to be able to get through the wheel falling off, and you got to be able to get through the motor blowing up, and you got to be able to get through the driver crashing the car or qualifying in the back. All the easy moments are the moments that you're running good and you're up in the front. The tough moments are when something goes wrong. Okay, how can I rebound from there and make this good? And as a team, and that's when you really start to develop that grit as a team. When you can overcome the things that go wrong and have a successful day or a win out of it.
Many new driver crew chief pairings to keep an eye on as the season goes along, and many new rules have come out as well since last time we had a show.
Rules.
We hate rules. How about this one, guys?
I've had to use a big sheet of paper.
I'm gonna be honest. Our rule notes here is two pages
extensive.
long. It's a little extensive.
Well, I'm going to start with this one because it's already stirred up quite a bit of chatter. The open exemption provisional, which will guarantee a starting position for world-class drivers who enter a NASCAR Cup Series race. Okay. Does this limit the intrigue, cheapen the sport? What do we think of this?
So what I'm taking is our retired world-class NASCAR champions are not world-class.
Yeah.
So not eligible for the provisional.
Yes.
Nobody wants to see Martin Truex like maybe in the All-Star race. I think you could go back to the situation like we had last year when Kyle Larson was at the Indy 500 and I was driving the car. The team would have preferred to just let me drive the car.
Yeah.
Let me race and be done with it. But you're not eligible because you hadn't been in the car. I don't like the fact that let's be honest, and we have this happen with our show with different guests and things that they have on. The most popular guests on our shows race, or they're involved in racing. And, I think the most popular thing that people want to see, imagine if instead of Dale Jr. racing his Xfinity car at Bristol, if he was at North Wilkesboro in the All-Star race in a Junior Motorsports Cup car like they're going to run at Daytona. You don't think anybody'd want to see that?
Or take Tony Stewart, who's still racing actively, albeit in a different series, but still racing actively. If we go to a road course that he's like, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
I would want Tony Stewart to be in that race if he wants to be there.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't like about this rule. I think it caught a lot of people off guard. I love the intent, and I love the fact that it's going to attract people from other forms of racing. But I don't like the fact that it left out our own. It's like we've gone back and we've figured all these things out with all the guys that kind of had a bad taste in their mouth of how they've been treated for the last several years. Now NASCAR and everybody's doing a great job of taking care of our past drivers and taking them around the racetrack and giving them hard cards and exposing them to the world. But I can promise you that people are going to show up if a Tony Stewart or a Dale Jr. or a
Kevin,
myself or who Martin Truex,
Kenseth,
whoever,
Edwards,
right?
Yeah,
it would have opened the door to take care of your past
your own
drivers as well that everybody would actually show up for. I just don't know. I get that we're trying to expose it to the world, but sometimes I feel like the flaw in some of the things that we do, we forget about our own.
Real quick, something like the rule like this, the people that are deciding it, is it because is it coming from? Do you think it's coming from one group, or is it like drivers, NASCAR ownership? You know what I mean? Everybody,
like who determines
who's all when
criteria?
they're creating this? Like, who do you think is all putting this?
I don't even know.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the way that this one was written definitely caught me off guard. And so, I think that obviously Helio is going to take advantage of it. I think he'll be a great addition.
Yeah, of course.
To the Daytona 500, and great for us at Fox to be able to have an IndyCar guy in the Daytona 500. So
different.
Being that the IndyCar is on Fox this year is it's great to have Helio in the race and be able to mix that up. But and I want those guys to come race. I really do. But man, don't forget about your own people.
Yep. So the criteria for approval will be on a case-by-case basis with prior racing resume as significant contributor. Race teams must request the provisional 90 days prior to an event. So again, we don't really know who this is being submitted to, but
yeah.
Are you worldwide yet?
I mean, I'm like worldwide junior, but I'm not.
I mean, maybe if we made you popular in some foreign country, you might be eligible.
Well, he's going to Mexico.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I gotta go.
Or no, where are you going?
Yeah. I mean, I have some trips on my mind.
Yeah.
Europe.
Mr. Worldwide.
So who would you want to see?
Who would I want to see?
Yeah.
I mean,
realistically,
that's retired or just in general?
Just in general. Like that would be realistic.
I really, really would like to see Lewis Hamilton.
I knew he was going to say that.
I really want that one. I think that'd be so cool. I would love to see Max to see that, because he's in his prime. That Max Verstappen, obviously that's probably not going to happen. But to see that him against Larson and that whole conversation going off, and then like a Scotty Mac. Yeah. I love Scotty Mac in any car.
I would love to see like the Max Verstappen type situation at the Daytona 500 of sorts with a Red Bull activation behind it.
Yeah, of course.
Because really when you look at the whole thing, whatever that sponsor is, it is as important as anything else, because of you want them to be behind the activation and promotion of what happens as well. So I don't even know who Helio's sponsor is. Do you?
No.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
You would if it was Max.
You would. Yeah. So the 90-day thing, in my mind, just looking at it without any conversation with anyone, it allows you to promote for 90 days of this mega star coming versus, 2 weeks, we're dropping this guy in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like that's
I'm not sure how long the process takes for approval, but I guess we'll see how some of this plays out.
Why you need 90 days.
90 days. All right, guys, what about this? The damaged vehicle policy. Vehicles placed on DVP may drive to the garage or be towed to the garage and will not be out of the race. 7-minute clock still remains active on pit road. No clock for repairs made in the garage.
Well, NASCAR is never going to get the opinion that they're doing the right thing for the teams, from the teams or the fans, right? So I'm glad that, it's kind of like big government, right? I'm glad that they took themselves out of what's happening, because now they can tow that car to the garage with flat tires. They can tow the car to the garage with a wreck, and they can say, good luck, teams. I hope you make it back out on the racetrack. Let the team make the decision, and I'm glad NASCAR doesn't have to be in the middle of it anymore, because they weren't going to win.
Yes.
They were not going to win the argument, whether it was right or wrong. Somebody was getting favoritism, and this is just we saw this come into play, several times last year.
Talladega, Watkins Glen.
There's just, the teams know what they can fix and what they can't fix. And being able to get the car back out on a racetrack is better than NASCAR deciding what's wrong.
Yeah. And I think ultimately
good change.
You want to have your own destiny in your hands.
Right.
Oh, look at it. Oh, we can't fix it. Okay. You telling me I can't fix it? Well, I haven't even looked at it yet.
Yeah, because it comes down to one point, and it might be the guy that you're racing against in the championship that is the guy that you need to beat out of the garage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
As close as these point championships are coming down to in these rounds and different things, one position, two positions could be the difference in making it or not making it.
Are you telling me that every race and every spot and every race matters? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, unless you're talking to Boyer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, for the most part it does, but every spot and every race matters. Even in the qualifying race. He'll argue with you, even today, that at Daytona it's different. Well, no, it's not, Clint. It is not.
Well, you kind of nicely led me to the next thing in terms of everything matters. How about this? The playoff waivers changing. If a playoff waiver is granted for missing a race, the driver will now be forfeiting all current and future playoff points.
And, there's an exception there too, or no?
And we'll start the playoff exceptions to the forfeit of playoff points include medical reason,
right,
birth of a child, family emergency, etc.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yes.
Yeah. So they left the part in there that the waiver was meant for, and they basically said, "Hey, Kyle Larson,
Yeah, this is the Kyle Larson.
Don't miss my race anymore. If you miss my race, now you're
losing
going
all
to be
this.
punished because now we have a rule in the rule book that will deter you from staying in Indy.
We're going to call it the Larson
that's
rule.
The Larson rule. I was just thinking that.
It's like Jordan rules this is the Larson
But
one.
This is the Larson rule.
That's a big change, though.
It is a big change, and I think I'm of the win is the waiver. I'm still in that category. I don't like rules to just have rules. I think that I think NASCAR has to protect its turf. I think it's I love the double. I love what they did last year with Larson. I hate that it worked out the way that it did. We got a ton of exposure for the racing world, the NASCAR world, everything that went into that. They're going to do it again. What difference does it make? If you run 35 races or 36, and I know that from a racetrack standpoint or a promoting standpoint, they want you at the racetrack. They want to guarantee you at the racetrack. But, I mean, the guy still went on. It still was a detriment to him all the way to the end.
It was, yeah.
All the way to the end. Charlotte,
the regular season championship.
It penalized him himself. He didn't win the regular season championship. It kept him out of the end of the year, and basically it penalized Larson all the way through without having a rule. So I mean, sometimes maybe we need that Doge committee to just go in here and start wiping stuff out.
It's kind of like Saquon Barkley this year was about to get the rushing record in a single season, and they have 17 games now. He didn't play the 17th game. He also didn't get the record. So imagine if he did get the record, but he didn't play the 17th game, and they're like, oh, that record doesn't matter because you didn't play all 17 games.
Yeah.
Like, he still did what he did. It was to his, you know what I mean? So
good analogy.
Hey, like that?
Yeah, I think
Yay,
that
sports.
I think when you're making these rules, I think there has to be some conversation about, okay, if we make the rule, do we have to have the rule? Right? Like when you look at the, towing the car back to the garage, I think you need that rule.
Yep.
I think you can make a pretty good argument for needing that rule.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know necessarily, other than we want you to guarantee you're going to be at all 36 races but your car's going to be there. I mean, you're NASCAR, you're locking in the car owner, you're locking in that position. If Kyle Larson wouldn't have been at Charlotte, would they have had more people if they'd have known Larson was showing up?
He's still a NASCAR guy. He's still our guy doing so. He's still promoting the sport at a high level.
Penalized him all the way to the end. It penalized that team all the way to the end for him missing that race on its own.
By itself. It took care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, he would have been, if he'd have been at Charlotte, he could have been the regular season champ. And those points all the way to the end penalized him. So it's self-penalizing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if rules to have, if we don't need it and it's self-penalizing, maybe we should just try to go without it.
I think stuff like this happens when a lot of people complain, like the wrong people are complaining and they don't really
see the bigger picture.
Yeah. They can't see the forest through the trees.
Well, we do know that he will be attempting this once again. So I guess we'll get to see it right in action.
Kevin's going to need to get some sim time in an IndyCar in case he has to get up and down for him.
Not going to happen.
All right, guys, how about this? Performance obligation. The verbiage around the 100% rule is replaced with a focus on manipulating the outcome of an event/championship. Now, this was very blatant at a certain point last season of Martinsville. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know. Well, this isn't a big surprise.
Yeah, I think it's great to have penalties to be able to enforce against the OEMs. They've put themselves in a position to where they've had a lot of control to be able to push the teams in directions that they might not otherwise push themselves in. And we hear a lot about it at the speedways, and you want it to be as natural as possible. So taking the penalties for this, you can tell them the penalties this, or I can just do it.
Go ahead.
The violations, will result in loss of manufacturer points, wind tunnel hours, and CFD time, which is a fluid dynamic system that's basically on the computer wind tunnel.
Okay.
When you lose the time to develop your car, and it's going to hurt all the teams.
Yeah.
So, I think after the Martinsville deal and everything that happened there, and they just need to back off.
Yeah.
They need to back off the teams, and you can meet all you want and have all the plans you want before the race, but during the race you just need to let them race.
Yeah. Can you imagine like say maybe a third tier Chevrolet team or Toyota, whatever team it is, doing something that falls under this, and then it affecting like a Hendrick,
Yeah.
an RCR,
Bad
and
news.
like that's a tough
case.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
Do you think they're just going to get more creative on how they do things, less obvious, or this will actually?
They're always going to get
They're
creative.
always, yeah.
You're always going to have to keep up with the teams. There's too many smart people involved in the whole thing to be able to not keep up with the teams and the progression and the communication and technology. It's going to evolve, and evolve or die. You
Evolve
either
or die.
evolve with it or you get left out.
That's the
Winning
new
is when-
Harvickism for the year.
if you're-
Evolve or die.
If you're in the grays, that's how you win. Pushing the envelope, that's how you win and be successful.
That's right.
That's how it is.
Yep.
Well, there you go. There's a lot of different things to keep an eye on. I'm not sure if I'm keeping to time right now, but I think it's time for you to start talking because I have been for a while. But that's some of the bigger storylines that happen in the offseason. Plenty to watch as the 2025 season
It's been
unfolds.
busy.
It has been very busy. It took me a while to write up all those notes that you
Yeah.
didn't even thank me
The
for.
only thing that hasn't happened hasn't happened since the end of the season is the air conditioning being turned on in this room.
It's cold
I'm gonna tell you,
now.
now it's freezing cold. When we got in this thing, I'm gonna tell y'all
It
what,
was humid.
America, it was so humid you
Yeah.
could watch your foot track come all the
Yeah.
way to the table.
Yep.
Anyway,
Anyways.
I need a
think
new
it's Mamba's
sticker.
turn.
Cheers, my friend.
cheers.
Yeah.
He's not drinking alcohol for once.
You need to borrow a cup?
I got this
Oh, yeah.
one.
I love the fact that
This is the first water drink.
Don't
he's
cover
had
my
in
face.
weeks.
Oh, don't cover your face?
No.
Oh, you're starting to peel off. I just wanted to make sure.
I need water.
Okay,
my
ladies and gentlemen,
my coffee's cold.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2025 season of Mamba Sips.
Ooh.
I'm so excited.
He's so
and we got some
excited.
things to tell you,
Okay,
okay?
get the boys over here looking at you.
Yeah, boys, pay attention here, okay? Mike, this
Look.
way, this way.
Our heads agree.
Boyer's
myself
head
and Mike
doesn't even
and,
move.
and Boyer's head is just
Boyers doesn't do anything.
yeah. His head doesn't work.
Yeah, accurate.
Pause.
Yeah.
This year, okay, right? This year we're gonna be answering questions
I
from
love this.
The fans, from you guys. I've put it a little bit. We all have a little bit on Twitter, and we try to pull it in every once in a while. But we're doing specifically for you guys. So send your questions to Harvick Happy Hour 4 at gmail.com.
I can't wait to answer some of these email questions.
Look. It's gonna be great.
Whoever the biggest asshole is in this whole thing, we're just gonna rip them right on the air.
All right.
That, and keep doing it on YouTube. Because we see a lot of those. Me and Kevin have been pretty active.
Mostly
on YouTube.
nice ones.
Yeah, yeah. And then,
we won't take too many of the bad ones because then you guys will just try to be bad. So
well, yeah.
The mean tweets.
But
don't
everyone-
be. Caitlin is very sensitive. We don't want her to
Yeah.
cry or get emotional. We don't want anybody to be mean to Caitlin.
Yeah.
So you can be mean to Mamba and myself, but not Caitlin.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah, fair. Yeah, leave Caitlin out of this. She has nothing to do with that. So that's going to be happening. And again, I know you guys loved the word of the week last year. We're bringing it back. So
Oh boy.
start thinking about what you want to hear Kevin have to say. I'm excited.
The
about
funniest
it,
ones
but-
are the ones I screw up.
I know.
Yes.
Those are the best. Yeah.
So
I'm not giving.
I mean, I can screw them. I can word salad them pretty quick.
Yeah.
yeah.
Word salad.
How are you going to how
Select.
are you going to select these words?
These
Well,
words.
Yeah.
Our producer said the drivers are picking some.
Well,
also,
That shouldn't
for
be that
Kevin.
hard.
Gotta
I mean,
really-
surely their vocabularies that most of them
Minimal.
don't have a very big
Vernacular.
vocabulary.
Yeah. So we got some help from the drivers. We got help from the fans,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, this beautiful
Noggin.
brain up here
Love it.
has a great.
I'm sure you've been
abundance.
thinking for a while now.
You've got to be getting smarter because your beard's getting grayer.
That just shows wisdom, Kevin. That
Wisdom
just
and
shows
nobleness.
wisdom. So we're doing that. Word of the week is going to be super fun.
It is.
This year. So bring it. And
That last year.
we can't move on without pulling something that happened over the off season. We are a motorsports show. We are specifically in NASCAR, but
Ooh,
Lewis Hamilton, Sir Lewis,
look at that.
he is in a new school.
Era.
He's at the school
Gosh.
of Ferrari, and he looked dapper.
Yes, he
Sitting
did.
next
Looks
to
like
this-
a freaking king is
Oh,
what he
man.
looks like.
King.
He's sitting next to, I think that's a Ferrari F40, which is one of my favorite ones that they've ever produced. And that just looks so
It looks pretty sharp.
Yeah. I mean, Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton together, I'm so glad that this happened because you can't go through your Formula One career and be that great and not drive a Ferrari at some point.
There you go. That's true.
It's going to be, so what I bet will happen is the amount of merch that is going off the shelves already. They'll never print enough merch with Lewis Hamilton's name on it for Ferrari. And they'll probably end up making some special Lewis Hamilton dedication car that will probably cost something
Yeah.
ridiculous.
What do you think his attire will look like in the first? His attire, his outfit,
His swag,
his outfit. For the races is always a story. What do you think that looks like at race one?
I hope he walks in with a cane and a Catalina on it.
There's probably a whole team of people
Oh my
deciding
gosh.
on what this
Very
fit's
classic.
going
The
to
guy is
be.
referring to himself.
What?
Yeah.
That was a good look.
Tell him about your cane.
So
Tell him about your cane. How
your
about
cane.
when I was in Tortola, a couple of my friends from the UK, Dan and Crystal, while we were on vacation, we were going through one of the shops and like, Mamba, you got to buy this cane. You have to buy this cane because there's this one night that's called Scarlet Night on the cruise.
Scarlet Night.
So everyone was red on the Virgin Cruise. Everyone was red, and so I busted out. I was like, "Fine, how much is it?" And he's like, $15. I said, "I have spent way more on way less." So I got this cane, and it was magic. Every time somebody else had it, it made them do.
So with your cane, did you develop this?
Made him do
Did you develop a limp?
No, I already
He
had the
has
limp.
one,
I have the
remember?
limp from the 20
Got a gimpy
Achilles.
foot.
So you have a natural limp.
A natural limp, and I can't get it out. Like now, it's my plug walk.
So did it help you?
Did it help me?
Yeah.
It helped me look better, I'll tell you that.
We know it helped him.
Everyone was like, damn, boy, that cane looks good. Real quick, I got a shout out to my boy, Matt Duesenberry, who is the head of Ferrari Motorsports in the Americas. Duesenberry used to work for Brad Keselowski. So he's a part of this whole Lewis Hamilton
It's an
Ferrari
effort.
thing.
With a name like Duesenberry, you better be good at what you do.
Yeah, you better be.
Duesenberry.
Yeah, you better be.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
Doozy. There you go. Kevin had a funny. All right. It's
Dad
been a
joke.
fun show already,
It
you
has.
guys. We have a great year ahead. It's so good to be back with the two of you. I do want to remind everyone to check out NASCAR's new documentary, The Madhouse, NASCAR's Return to Bowman Gray Stadium, available now. So this documentary explores the rich, storied past of the Winston-Salem, North Carolina venue, weaving a present-day narrative focused on the 2025 Clash. So NASCAR's first Premier Series race at the historic track in 54 years. It's going to be exciting.
It is. And I look at all the renovations and things that have happened at Bowman Gray. I have to admit, when we went to the Coliseum the first time, I was like, this is the dumbest thing that we could possibly ever imagine doing. And it was fantastic. The track was racy. I think that Bowman Gray is going to be interesting. I don't know what the
Yes.
weather will be like, but I don't think the people of Winston-Salem care.
Nope.
I think they are going to show up at the Madhouse. When you watch this documentary, you are going to learn that the Madhouse has its name for a reason.
And you can watch that documentary tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern on FS1. You don't want to miss it. So we've been talking about the Clash. It's never too early to make a race prediction. So doing our first of the year, what do you say?
Chase
Kevin?
Briscoe.
And why?
Because I think that the Joe Gibbs cars have run well at these short tracks, and I think that he, along with a lot of other guys, has something to prove, and I think James Small is right there with him. So he has been good. He was very good as his teammate at SHR at this style of racetrack, and I just think that it could be a magical moment for him.
Magical moment. First
be.
pick of the year is
Could be
Chase
magical.
Briscoe.
Chase Briscoe.
I'm going with our reigning
Did that
champion.
catch you off guard?
No.
A little bit. Not crazy, but a little
Yeah,
bit.
not crazy. I'm going with the reigning champ
Oh,
because he's
low-hanging
always really
fruit.
good at figuring out
Good
new
pick.
venues,
Yeah.
whether it's Bristol Dirt, LA Coliseum. So I think Joey Logano could be the guy that figures this out rather
Kicked
quickly.
ass at North Wilkesboro.
Yep.
All-Star race.
So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Your thoughts,
those
sir?
those are good picks.
Let me write
Give
this
me
down.
the hometown boy, Burt freaking Myers. Burt Myers is going to be in this race.
Are you joking?
No, I'm serious.
I know he's in the race.
No,
That's
watch
your pick to win?
That's-
Oh, bro, watch this. Watch
Okay.
This. Why? Why? Because it's so. This
It's
track
total
is-
silence.
this
Did
track-
you
I know.
notice?
Look, he was dumbfounded. He's like,
We
"Are
both
you
were like-
freaking kidding me?"
I'll make you a bet right now. I don't know what we're betting, but I bet he doesn't make the race.
I mean, listen. You're
What?
negative
You're
Nancy.
picking him to win.
You're a negative Nancy. You know what? Fine. I'll take the bet because it's double or nothing because I still haven't got my steak.
Let's do another one.
What? Fine. I'll do another one. I like Burt
You can
Myers
have
on that
two.
one. Fine. I'll pick two.
I'll let you have two.
Oh, okay.
Look at that.
So
I get
yeah.
two.
pick a regular.
But I do love the fact that Burt Myers and Tim Brown are in the race.
I do.
Yes.
But I actually do think that they'll do better than people probably expect.
No way.
I think so.
Okay.
Anyway.
You get a secondary.
I know,
just in
secondary,
case.
secondary.
A safety.
Oh, we already know.
Secondary.
Ryan Blaney.
Oh, well, let me
What's a good set? What do you think?
I would say
Sure, it's
Blaney.
Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney.
Give me Ryan Blaney.
How was his wedding, by the way?
Aspen was amazing.
Yeah. Did you ski?
No, I didn't.
Do you know how to ski?
Snowboard.
Okay.
Oh,
Do you like to snow?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Vermont. Like,
that's
but
true.
I don't like it for how long we have it up there, which is like 8 months.
Yeah,
feels
Year
like.
round.
Yeah,
I
like,
guess you have to like the
So
snow.
you gotta like it.
Or you have to know about the snow. You should have seen my kids. It snowed in Charlotte.
Yeah.
I mean, Keelan is, it's 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock at night, and they're just out there towing each other around the
Ecstatic.
sled. We got maybe a half inch of snow on the ground. They thought
Big,
that
it's a big event around here. When
Big
it
event.
snows,
well, it shuts,
you know?
it shuts down the city.
It shuts down everything.
traffic is wonderful,
Oh, yeah.
though.
well,
good
there is
times.
none.
Right.
But you also can't drive on the road because they don't know how to salt properly. It's icy.
There is a lot of salt on the road.
There's a lot, but it's still not
lot.
done right.
Yeah, there
Still
was a
done
lot of salt
incorrectly.
on the road.
Okay, so next episode, Mamba will be on vacation. So we will
And his
have
chair gets smarter.
Bob Pockris will be joining
Bobby
us
P in
for
the house.
a
Yeah.
season preview edition of Happy Hour. We look forward to that. So we encourage all the closers to keep subscribing on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. All right, we're glad we're back, and we will see you next episode.